Heard the call to build your small business? Make it happen with a .net domain name, the place for dreamers for 30 years and counting. Visit keepdreamingup.net for tips and advice, whether you're just getting started or looking to grow. That's keepdreamingup.net.
This is the Queen of Politics edition of The Aaron Cruz Show, the political weekly wrap-up that packs a punch with your host, Aaron Cruz.
Good evening and welcome to The Aaron Cruz Show, coming to you live from San Diego, California. This is Aaron Cruz. I'm your hostess tonight. Thank you for joining me for the Queen of Politics. So tonight's topic, it's going to be pretty interesting. It's basically lies, Lincoln, and you. So we have a great packed night tonight in terms of what we're going to be talking about. I did a little live video for you guys today, and I'm not sure if any of you saw it, but it pretty much I want to cover the healthcare reform, the dreamers, the little boy who he is just a doll baby. He's 5 years old. He's accused of pretty much terrorism and intimidation, yada, yada, yada. This cute little cuteness, we're going to talk about him a little bit and what's going on in our liberal school systems and the indoctrination and the reprimands for just the most ludicrous things, what's happening across the nation and what you can do as a parent. And we will also be talking about, did I already say the dreamers? Wow. We have got some pretty interesting things going on. The other thing we're going to talk about is Japan. Japan, yes, we are. They have quite the situation over there, and in dealing with their nuclear waste issue that's dumping into the ocean. You know, a couple of years back, we had this horrific accident, and of course, it has just been leaching all over our ocean and impacting our Earth for some time, and now they've come to the point where they are going to be dealing with this, and they really don't care what anybody else thinks. So we'll be talking about Japan, and then the other established thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, you know, it's kind of in line with the dreamers, is Lincoln. Lincoln, our guy Lincoln, yes, in D.C., the memorial, that's what I'm talking about. He is a landmark. He is on our money. He is really, you know, right between those two pillars. He is something else. He is basically he's pretty much everything that America stands for. You know, he started from nothing, and he basically was a self-educated attorney, and he just, you know, he is just an astonishing man, and he has this monument there in D.C., and it has been vandalized again. And this ties into the dreamer issue. It was, well, we'll get into that in a few minutes. In any case, I want to go ahead and do our first topic, which is going to be the healthcare reform. We basically we're running out of time. And one of the things I know I've spoken to you about before previously is how do we get Congress to act? Congress, Republicans have had, you know, we had the House, and then we had the Senate. Now we have the presidency, and they have been dragging feet, okay? Dragging feet to get anything done. They really, the truth is this, they should have had something on Trump's desk January 20th ready to sign. They had how long before that to get something together? All of this is, you know, a kick the can, making deals. It's playing with our time. It's playing with our money. We are the ones, the Americans are the ones who suffer as a result of that, you know, Congress not doing their jobs. 9 months in, we could have had a baby, all right? And so this is where we're at. Congress has come together, and they apparently, I mean, I'm not too sure what to think about this. They have come together, and the Senate has decided that they have this legislation drafted where they're going to do pretty much like block grants is what they're talking about. And liberals are, of course, out of their minds on the whole deal because it pretty much rolls back a lot of what Obama tried to accomplish. But it's just, I believe it does it in the wrong way. If the Senate isn't at the point where they can provide legislation, that's going to make the changes we need, make the impact that gets to a fundamental level to where we have reduced premiums, reduced costs across the board. Americans have more money in their wallet. They can get the care that they want. Competitive insurance agencies and companies, they can be competitive, hopefully go across state lines and what have you, yada, yada, yada. If it doesn't do everything that we need it to do to get the results that we need, we should just repeal. And I made a call out today on Twitter at Wagner Girly, and I basically said it's this simple. Repeal. September 30th is the cutoff, all right? After September 30th, they have to have a 60-part vote, okay? 60-part vote in order to pass anything. We basically run out of time. It's, the 21st? So we have how many days to get this through? Congress has had 9 months to put something together, and they haven't. The Republicans have in the House, but in the Senate, they've been just fiddling around the last few months. So this is what it comes down to. Repeal it. Repeal it. There is, and you can look, and I'll put it in the comments if you'd like to read it. There are mechanisms by which this repeal of Obamacare wouldn't really repeal Obamacare completely right away. It wouldn't be like, okay, they pass it, the repeal, and then tomorrow we're screwed. Okay, that's just faulty nonsense. No, it would be a 2-year transition of policy whereby certain portions of the law are essentially rolled back, and it would be gradual. Now, I don't know about you, but 9 months they've had to get something done. They had much more than 9 months before that to get something on Trump's desk for January 20th. Do I think that they can come together and get something together in 2 years? If they really wanted to, they could. That's what it comes down to. If Congress really wanted to pass something, if the Senate really thought that there needed to be changes, that somebody wouldn't be losing a deal or getting, scratched on the back or somebody losing something at some point, they would pass a piece of legislation that actually worked. It would work for the poor, giving the help we need temporarily to those that need it. It would provide a good infrastructure, options for competition, no bailouts for anybody who didn't, need the help. Medicare was expanded, and it was expanded faultily, I believe. And they gave, basically coverage to people who are non-working, able-bodied adults. And that's just flat wrong. But there are people who are going through really difficult times, and those people need a hand up, not a hand out, and they may need medical care in the process. So, I think we have ways to function and make something temporarily working for those that actually need it. And there are disabled people and other people who need coverages, and of course there are mechanisms for that too. All of what we're seeing is just a big facade. It's like a flashy mirror and a really, really distracting. It's like the fun zone at a carnival. Okay, it's just lights flashing, distraction, all in an effort to buy time, to make deals behind closed doors, and all the while, us as American people are really the ones who pay the price. We pay the price at home. We pay the price with less food on our tables, less clothes on our back, less gas in our cars to get to work, you name it. And so what I am going to call for is that we put a full core press. If they can't get something done, and like I said, this block grant idea where they're essentially It says, as the New York Times says, they quote Larry Levitt, okay? He's the senior vice president with nonpartisan Kaiser Family Foundation. Now, he says, and mind you, it says nonpartisan, but boy, this sounds a little partisan to me, but I think about it for a minute. The quote, "This is by far the most radical of any of the Republican healthcare bills that have been debated this year. And the reasons for that is that this would be the biggest devolution of federal money and responsibility to the states for anything ever." Now, states should be the ones to deal with the money, deal with the care. They know what their people need. They can better provide for their populace. Yes. How do we get the federal money in the state's pocket to be able to do that? Now, this is the thing, is it almost sounds, and I'm, in terms of policy and everything, I really haven't looked at this new bill. I can't wait to read it and go over it. Hopefully they'll talk about it some more. But I really want to go over this bill and look at it, because I'm just not too sure that. Now think about this. They're giving money to the states. I mean, it's just, and I know they do that now in a different way, but block grants, I mean, the way it says very few strings attached. Very few. What does that mean? And so I really think, quite frankly, and I'm going to be blunt about this, that Congress is playing games. They're playing games with your money. They're playing games with your health. And there are people who are getting free health care off of your back, and they're getting free health care off of your back. I'm going to say it again. And Congress is playing games. It's the money shuffle. Okay? Now part of this Senate package is that it rolls back the Medicare expansion that Obama put in. Now, the problem with every single article I read, all right, is that they really don't go into the details. I believe that the Senate owes the American people a very clear understanding, okay, not hype, not heartstrings, a clear understanding of what this legislation means for the American person, okay? What does this mean? So we're going to get monies from the people, given to the federal government, and then passed to the states? I mean, I know we do that already, but it just seems like, again, one of their creative schemes and money shuffles, and I don't like it. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. The problem with what I see the Senate doing in trying to create this last-minute stint to try to find policy that's going to fit and make the cut is that anytime Congress passes legislation and it goes to the president's desk and is signed in as law, how many laws have been taken back? Okay? How far can you step back and have those laws removed or changed? I mean, even look at Obama. Look at what we've done. We have congressional members in there for a good period of time. They didn't propose anything to Trump when he came in. Now it's been 9 more months. And this has been an issue that the people are largely divided on. We the people are largely divided on. And still yet, Congress can't get together to put together and put forward something for Trump to make revisions. So, with that, I say this. Why pass bad legislation to support more bad legislation? Or, I mean, it's even worse than what the House passed, if you ask me. I mean, from what I'm reading. And so I think that we should be very clear to Congress. If you don't have your crap together, if you don't have your ducks in a row, repeal. Period. End of story. Then come together like adults, like the lavishly paid adults that you are, okay, and figure out legislation that's going to be equitable and work for the American people, the working American people. and provide for those who are most vulnerable temporarily. Now, I think that you need to you need to contact Congress at the end of the show. I always give out the phone number, and also look up your senator and your House representative and contact them both, and reach out and just tell them flat out, you don't have a good deal. What is this going to do for me? Your current state and proposal, and if you're not good with that, you need to tell them, no, just repeal and then come back and replace later. It's the smarter way to go. I think that it's the better way to go. No bad legislation needs to be passed at this point. We don't need 1 week left and then putting something through, shoving it down our throats when we haven't even had a chance to really look at this. And obviously, the media isn't in here to actually give us solid data that we can rely on as a people. So it's clear that that's the angle that we need to come from. Now, I will agree, New York Times called this an 11th hour effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Yes, and I think that they should repeal it, and I don't think that they should replace it. Not at this point. They've had plenty of time. They can't get it together. Repeal. They should be talking about this, and I believe they're going to be taking this to the floor early this next week. So make sure you stay in the loop on that, and again, watch the news. Be careful what you believe. Go to the congressperson's website, read the legislation for yourself, which I'll go ahead and I'll put this up there. I haven't read it for myself, but you should, and I will be too. So that way, when we meet together for Political Core on Tuesday, we can go over that. So anyway, I'm kind of going over that again, but I just want to really stress this is probably, I believe they said somewhere around 28 or 30% of our economy. Our healthcare is huge, and this creates stability for our populace. So it's one of the most important parts of Congress' job to work on this when Trump is just now coming in and he's still in his first year. So now, tied into that, the healthcare reform, okay, and the oh gosh, I'm telling you, I just, my mind was blown today reading all these articles. Part of this healthcare reform would be, I'm hesitant to really go into this too much, but we really, really have to look at what's important to us in terms of laws, in terms of what we want as a nation, because this healthcare reform has made great division, and the division has fallen over to areas where there are people in our nation who are receiving healthcare benefits who shouldn't be, and some of those people may be dreamers. Many providers now, medical providers, don't even ask for Social Security numbers out of fear that they're going to offend somebody or violate some form of personal privacy, or get lawsuits stuck on them. And so many people are here. They're receiving benefits. They're receiving care, and you're essentially paying for it under some of these different programs that are offered. This is a huge problem, and this ties into our Dreamer story. So basically, this last week, Nancy Pelosi got nailed into a corner. I mean, pretty much everybody has seen this video where Nancy Pelosi is pretty much called out by this just completely out of control dreamer who is, waving his arms, yelling at Nancy Pelosi. Nancy's trying to say, now look, now listen, now stop, listen, stop. This is it right here. You can't, this is just what, George Bush said. We don't negotiate with terrorists. Now, I'm not saying this dreamer is a terrorist, but I'm going to tell you what, when you have a man or a woman, person, who's here in the United States illegally, and they stand in front of, in front of our congressperson. Now, I'm not, and I told you, and you know this, I'm not for Nancy Pelosi. She is not a woman that she's one of the people who passed this healthcare reform and shoved it down our throats. But she is still a member of Congress. She is still a ranking member of Congress. And for these dreamers, for these brain dead dreamers, to stand there in front of her, yelling and screaming and waving their arms radically and basically talking over her, these are people who are here illegally. They are not here legally. I know Trump has said, well, Congress, you have 6 months to pass something. We're not going to really do anything until then, for these dreamers. Look, these people are here illegally. They're not supposed to be here. They're brought here by parents, or they were born here. Well, those would be citizens, but they're in different situations. All right, they're not supposed to be here, and they're here illegally, and they're sitting there taking the time of our congresspersons, abusing the congressperson. These people should not have any rights here whatsoever, okay? Because, one of the things I was reading about today, and this may be quite controversial, I was reading about how the Constitution of the United States, basically, it affirms our rights as given by God, right? And as we look at it, it protects citizens. And we can go into the amendments and everything, some of our Constitution was amended to cover slaves, okay? Nowhere does it protect people who are not citizens, okay? Now, I'm not saying that they don't have God-given rights and rights in their own nations. I'm just saying if you're here illegally in the United States of America, you should be taken home to your home nation. Okay? It's period, end of story. There's no arguing there. Okay? And I hear a lot of sympathy, and I've gotten a lot of flack. I had 2 threats today messaged by people about this, where they call me insensitive, they call me names, for basically wanting to punish children, and there were a couple on my timeline as well, wanting to punish children for acts that the parents did. Look, if your parents didn't, and this is the example I use, if your parents didn't pay the rent and you get evicted, no, it's not your fault. It's your parents' fault, and they need to take responsibility, and no, you can't stay in the apartment. It's the same thing for being in the United States. Your parents made the wrong choice. You are stuck in the middle, but that doesn't give you the right to stay here. All right? It doesn't. And it's very clear to me and to many, many others, I'm not alone, I'm not a minority here, that this is not a sympathy issue and something where we can pull on the heartstrings. It's just not. There are people, seriously, there are people in need, people who need to be given asylum. There are people who need to come here on refugee status, who are at a point in their lives or persecution or abuse where they have to flee, okay? And they take refuge here. This is not a joke. They need to come here. And there are specific cases where we grant people asylum, we grant people refugee status here, and it's done in a way that provides for, human rights protection and what have you. The situation with what we're faced with right now are a group of people who are here illegally in the United States, and in mine and many others' opinions, don't deserve protection. All right? They just don't. And so what I suggest is you contact your congressperson and you tell them that you're not interested in anything DACA. This is what I'm saying. You're not interested in anything DACA. You want nothing to do with anything Dreamer and amnesty or any form of legalization of people who are here until healthcare reform is resolved and until tax reform is resolved and we start seeing some adjustments in the country. And quite frankly, until those 2 items are settled, until we have our own house in order, how can we cope with dealing with these sorts of individuals who are not only abusive, they're manipulative, they're abusing their stay here, they're liars, they're here on false pretense of sorts, many of them for years, earning wages, taking citizen jobs. So until we get these other issues in order, nobody has any purpose or reason to pass any form of legislation allowing an illegal to stay here in the United States. Period. End of story. I know you hate that period, end of story. I've heard that before, but live with it. That's just how it is. And now some people say, well, you can't deport so many people. Well, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. All right? It's not preferred, of course, but if we can't handle our own situation, our own people, how in the world are we supposed to help others? It's not feasible. So, and the other thing is until you get those other situations handled, healthcare reform and tax reform and so on, we don't have any business passing legislation that we, can't follow close enough to make sure that it's the right legislation. And until then, until we get something resolved and solved in a manner which is appropriate, we need to build the wall. All right? And we've talked about some of that funding that's gone through and the retrofitting, and I'm so excited, I have to say, that there's been a great deal of movement on the United States border, Mexico border in San Diego. They shut down the freeway today. I believe it was southbound only. It's going to be shut, maybe it's tomorrow. It's shut for the entire weekend. They're redirecting the path. So they're doing a lot of work down there on the southern border, at least in the entry zone and exit zones. It's really great. So our money is hard at work on the border, and that's a good thing. So we need to continue to press our lawmakers to go ahead and fund the projects for the border. It's going to save us a lot of money. It's going to save us a lot of heartache. It's going to actually help protect children who are brought over. It's going to help fight the drugs in terms of tunnels and other sorts of enforcement. They're not just talking about walls. They're talking about manning and enforcement, not just at the border as well. They're talking about throughout the nation. So this is a good thing. We just have to keep on them, I think, about this. So now, the other thing that I want to talk to you about goes hand in hand with the dreamers, okay? So now we've seen in the recent past, and Ben Shapiro, he was giving his talk, and we saw all of these individuals just so angry about the fact that he and others like him are speaking out for conservative policy, less government, more restrained government, and so on. But the question is this. Are those people who are protesting and yelling and screaming at these universities, okay, are they citizens? Because if they're visiting students, international students here on visas, perhaps workers who are here in permanent residency status or other kinds of status, those individuals should not be taking part in political protests. They really shouldn't be. And that ties into our next story, which is Lincoln. Okay, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about tonight is law. There's letter of the law, rule of the law, and spirit of the law. And Lincoln is kind of, I remember my son, he was a couple years old, and one of the presidents he was most fascinated with, and he knew all the details about him, was President Lincoln. And Lincoln is just part of the backbone, I believe, of our society, one of the most predominant presidents, I think, in U.S. history. We have a lot to learn from him. But in his memorial, it was vandalized, basically, all right? It was vandalized some time back, and then it was vandalized again. Now, who vandalized the memorial? It was Monday at 1:10 p.m. It was, and I can't pronounce his name. His name is spelled Nurtilek, and his last name is Bakirov. He's 21 years old, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Kyrgyzstan? It's Kyrgyzstan. Okay, that's where he's from. He's an international student, and he's basically accused of vandalizing the memorial, okay? He didn't just spray paint it. He was using a penny, okay? He etched the two words, HYPTMAEK, all right, into the fifth pillar on the north side of the memorial. You know, it's really, really frightening because this particular person, he tried to evade the law. He was found by an officer and asked to stop. He didn't stop until after the second time, okay? And then he said he didn't know, quote, didn't know that you can't do that. Am I in trouble for doing this, he asks. Look, if you're sitting there etching with a penny words on a memorial or any public place, I'm not sure where you come from or what you think is polite or proper, but I believe that you know that you shouldn't be doing this, all right? Now, the sad thing is that they thought at first that this particular vandalism could be removed, and they estimated it cost a couple $1,000s to remove it. But I guess from what it's coming to, they're saying that they can't remove the letters without polishing it. And by polishing it, they would go too deep, and yes, it could damage it permanently. And so the question is this, then can it even be fixed? So hopefully this gets resolved. But what we have here is an international student visiting here, and here he's vandalizing one of our most prized monuments. And we have yet to find out what this means, and I'm sure at some point we will find out what the definition of that word is, if it's anything, and it'll be dealt with. But the question is this, these international students who come to our country to learn, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have visiting programs, because I know our students visit other nations as well. What I'm saying is that we have to be very careful and very clear with our visiting students what is appropriate and what isn't when they come to the United States. You know, it used to be that when you came here, people knew. They knew the value. They knew what was right. They really took part in being, you know, a visitor and a guest, and cherished their stay here. And that just seems to be no more. And I think we really need to look at these visiting statuses and education and what we're providing these students with when they come. This person, in my opinion, should be, he was obviously arrested. It's a federal offense what he did. And I believe he should be deported. He should be deported, not to let to come back to do, you know, his remaining education. It's very sad. It's unfortunate, but to play dumb on this is just so abusive to our system and to our nation as a whole. It's just not even funny. I mean, do these students think we are so dumb? Do these people coming to our nation from other nations think we are so dumb that we're going to follow for their first lame excuse that they somehow think that they could get out of this without a scratch? I don't think so. I think messages need to be sent that our laws will be enforced, and people might think twice about what they do. Okay, and this goes back down to our next story, which is the story of our little child, which my heart just goes out to this family. They've been through so much. Dear little 5-year-old boy, just the cutest 5-year-old little boy. Okay, Riley. Little Riley, just this face on this boy is just the cutest. Basically, Riley went to school wearing his Super Mario backpack, okay? And he just loves this backpack. And he didn't want to basically take it off. So he told his teacher that he had a bomb, and it would explode if he removed it. Okay? A little creative little boy. He wants to keep his backpack on. He doesn't want to take it off. So make a story for teacher. He's playing make-believe. Okay? He got more than a verbal lashing. He was suspended. Okay? They reached out to the father, at his work. Okay? Interrupt his work. So they needed to come pick him up. He was going to have a 1-day suspension. Okay? And little Jackson, he he didn't really understand the whole ordeal. He's thinking he's playing make-believe. Okay? He doesn't watch politics all day long and think about Muslim terrorists and bomb threats. Okay? He doesn't. He's a little 5-year-old boy. So the school wrote his family a letter saying, quote, intentionally engaged in harassment, threats, or intimidation. I mean, this is outrageous. And one of the things I want to tell you as a parent is I really believe that schools are stepping over the line of parenting, all right? Even parents can see the sensitivity and the needs of the child. The school is stepping over. Zero tolerance, yes, I understand on certain levels needs to be adhered to. But in the case of a 5-year-old child, he didn't know he was playing make-believe. And I'm going to tell you, kids will be kids, especially boys will be boys. I don't know how many boys I knew used to play with these little smoke bombs and, stink bombs and cracker bombs and, all these little cap guns and, cowboys, Indians, you name it. I mean, it was, if you were going to be a soldier, G.I. Joe was big in my day, okay? You were a soldier, you played with sticks that were guns, you played with sticks that were arrows, it was a good time. We all had fun, and yeah, we may trip and scrape our knee and cry and be like, Johnny did this, or Tommy did that, or whatever. But nobody went, my child was threatened. I felt like they were going to, X, Y, Z. That's not how it was. Parents were parents and kids were kids. So now what I'm going to suggest is that parents take an active role in their children's upbringing and really take a look at the school's role and make sure that they meet with the appropriate authorities, okay? Because the schools are overstepping their boundaries. And so what I'm going to put right now in the comment section is a reference, okay? And it's to Amazon.com. It's basically Dr. James Dobson's parenting collection. And I don't know if you know much about him, but he is kind of the backbone of parenting. Now, I don't agree with everything, but really, he has so much information to offer in terms of education and information and resources for today's parents. And it goes back to when I was a child and something that I remember my mom and dad having around the house. And now I can appreciate why they used it. And I used it some for my kids, not so much. But, it's just we can't allow the schools to become parents. We can't allow this to continue and go any further. Okay? We can't. Indoctrination, chastising our children, making them feel guilty. Now, this poor little boy, he doesn't remember a thing, really. He's moved on. He's moved past, this situation with the schools. But, this is going to be on his permanent record. And this is not something that's going to go away. And I think that's tragic. So I'm sharing right now the IJR article, which talks about the story for the little cutie 5-year-old boy. These schools are calling it a terrorist threat. I mean, it's outrageous. So I believe it's time we as American citizens, we as parents, we as even relatives push back against the liberal agenda in our schools and inappropriate parenting by the schools. They're not mom and dad. They rule by a heavy, stick that, zero tolerance and what have you on a 5-year-old boy in a manner which is just so inappropriate. Pushback. And, the biggest thing I can tell you as a parent and with your kids in this type of situation is this. And I've dealt with a lot of situations with my son in his life and my daughter as well at school. Look, if your children feel like they can speak to you and talk to you, that's the best form of knowing what's going on. They need to know they can come to you. So from an early age, impart on them that you are the parent and they can tell you anything without judgment. All right, they can come to you and talk to you about anything. And I think that's probably one of the most important things. and then also take a look at the parenting guides. I went ahead and I provided as well. But really, our children need to know that we're there for them. This is a world that's very harsh, and if nobody else is there for them, who else do they have? They have their family. So, our kids, this is our future. This is one of the fundamental issues here. And this is one of the issues that I talked about in my excerpt leading up to the show was this. Dreamers. The true dreamers should be our own citizens, okay? The true dreamers should be our own children. The ones who are looking for a future, who need jobs, who need security, who have $20 trillion in debt hanging over their heads, okay? Those are the true dreamers. We need to make their dreams come true by providing them a nation of laws, a nation which can provide for them, the opportunity for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And in order to do that, I believe that we need to, clean up our policies, okay, and clean up the people who are here and shouldn't be. Yes. So, like I do in every show, okay, I want to give you the information for Congress, all right? The phone number for Congress will be 202-224-3121, okay? House.gov and Senate.gov are your resources to reach your congressional members. And you can also look up other resources on my website, aaroncruz.com, or you can send me an email, an inquiry to info@aaroncruz.com. Be sure to like us on social media. You can follow me at Wagner Girlie, WAGNERGIRLE, on Twitter, or The Queen of Politics, or The Aaron Cruz Show. All of those work. And I'm also on Facebook. As always, we want to grow together. We want to find common solutions, to find common ground. I will always answer any questions I can. Please, 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 I can't stress this enough. Do not hesitate to reach out, okay? We are in this together. I want to thank you again for joining me, Aaron Cruz, on The Queen of Politics of The Aaron Cruz Show. Join me again this next Tuesday evening for Political Core, 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we get to the core of the issues, okay? Basically, it's with information you can use to make positive change in your community, in your state, and in the nation. Okay. Thank you so much. Again, God bless you, and God bless America.
To hear more and to learn more on how you can make an impact or about the Queen of Politics and the Aaron Cruz Show, visit us online at aaroncruz.com. That's ERINCRUZ.com. Thank you for joining us, and see you at the same time and the same place next week.